Okay, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you showing up tonight. I'll warn you before we start, this week has been like off the charts, crazy busy. And so I haven't had a chance to think about what I was going to talk about tonight. So when the time comes for a Dharma talk, you got two choices. You can watch me stare at you blankly until I figure out what I want to say, or you can ask me what you'd like to hear me talk about. Either is fine with me. Given enough time, I'll come up with something. But it actually is interesting to me to know what's on your mind and what you would like to hear about. So we'll begin with the verse of the Kesa. So for those of you who are new to this, people who are ordained or are ministers, Buddhist clergy and stuff like that, get things to put on our necks during services that are representative of the Buddhist robes, of the Buddha's robes. You don't have that, but you do still have the Buddha's teachings. So you can wear the teachings while you're in here. So you can say the verse of the Kesa, and that's really, this is actually a representation of what you're going to wear during the teachings. Does that make sense? Okay. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gods of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Please stand. Okay, well, let's go do this tonight. Usually this works. That's all right. I'll just put it in here. This will work. Thank you, though. 3 bows. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present. It fills our sacred space, guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom. We offer it on behalf of all beings. You can be seated. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for refuge. Being one with the Buddha, I resolve to each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for refuge. Being one with the Dharma, gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for refuge. Being one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing gladness and safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So this is a silent meditation night. So we'll do a 20-minute silent meditation. Does anyone need instruction before we sit? Everybody know how to meditate? Okay.
I mean, is it like the regular meditation, like just silent?
Yeah, whatever you'd like to do. So, if you're if you're new to meditation, a good place to start, which is actually a good place to continue and a good place to finish, is to meditate on your breath. It's always there, find a place where it's comfortable to feel the breath. Tip of your nose is good. Rise and fall of your belly is good. And just settle your attention there. You don't have to concentrate rigidly on the breath. Just kind of rest your attention on the breath. And if your mind wanders, which it will, I said when your mind wanders, just bring it back, calmly, compassionately. When the Buddha taught meditation, he would talk about being ardent, alert, and aware. So ardent meaning bringing some energy to your meditation, just some dedication and commitment. I'm going to sit for 20 minutes. I'm going to train my mind for 20 minutes. And being alert, being aware of what's happening in the moment, and how the mind is moving, and then bringing it back to to the object of meditation. Being aware when the mind has wandered away, and just bringing it back, and then being present to whatever is coming up. So we don't have to push anything away. We don't have to cling to anything. Pleasant feelings arise. Pleasant feelings has arisen. You don't have to hold on to that. Things come and go. Unpleasant feelings arise. Neutral feelings arise. Thoughts, sensations, all these things, sounds from outside. You basically accept them, let them go. Thoughts, you can let them go. Even if you've noticed you've been lost in thought for a while, it's okay. Let it go. Return to the breath. Things that want to stick with you, maybe an unpleasant physical sensation or a noise outside or something like that, just let it be. You don't have to shove anything away. Whatever's happening in the present moment, we can just sit with. And over time, then our minds become more concentrated, and as they become more concentrated, they become more calm, less reactive. Is that helpful? Yes. Okay. All right, so make yourself comfortable. And I'll ring the bell 3 times to begin and twice to end. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now. In reciting the sutras, hearing the Dharma, and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the peace of the world, the strength of this temple, and the practice of its members, to the restoration and health of the natural world, its waters, plants, and creatures, and to all efforts in its service with gratitude. We pray for those suffering from violence and for those who are sick, and for those who are ministering to the sick, and for those who are grieving. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabbe sata sada hantu avera sukha jivino katang punya phalang maihang sabbe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. So, do you think of something you want me to talk about? Yeah.
I was wondering if you could comment on how to live in a way that you feel that I was reading that your work is supposed to be just an opportunity to be giving kindness and goodness and peace to others. How do we navigate that in a Western world, or even just the world where there's a very transactional trust that everyone has and everything is based on wealth and power? How do you try to sort out if you're on the right path when you have opportunities before you where you would always be able to see a way to help people and have peace and give them peace, but one might pay a lot more or be a lot less stressful? I'm having a hard time sorting out how boundaries fall into play with all of this. If I'm not supposed to really worry about those things, like how do I have boundaries and not end up with a job where I'm at work until 8 o'clock and I don't see my family, that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Good. So, probably that didn't come through on the online. So let me see if I can restate it. I mean, I could make you get the microphone and read it again. I'm not going to put you through that. Basically, we're talking about right livelihood. Okay? So the Eightfold Path, there's right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. So right livelihood. So the Buddhist teachings are that basically those three factors there, speech, action, and livelihood, have to do with living in a compassionate way. So when we're talking about compassion, we can mean this sort of happens on different levels. On one level, we want to develop compassion of the heart. We want to greet everyone with the desire that they not experience suffering. We want our actions in the world to decrease suffering and increase happiness. That's kind of what you're talking about, right? On another level, kind of the first thing is just to try to not cause suffering, right? Life is complicated. I don't know that it's any more complicated now than it would have been when the Buddha was alive, but it's definitely complicated in different ways. And I think you can be misled and misguided in a whole lot of ways that maybe you couldn't have been misguided 2,000, 2,500 years ago, just because the technology and stuff. But you want to make your living in a way that, to the extent that it's realistic, that you don't harm others, and that you don't harm yourself, and that you especially don't harm like people who are close to you, friends, family, and so on. That's hard to do. But it's kind of like, when you go for refuge, you take the 5 precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in harmful speech, not to engage in harmful sexual activity, not to engage in intoxicants to the point that you cloud your mind. So those are guidelines, not commandments. They're things to aim toward, to concentrate on, to set your mind on. They're not hard and fast rules. We have some flexibility in life. That doesn't mean that we can decide, well, I don't like that guy, so it's okay to kill him. It means that, we can decide, okay, to what extent am I complicit in killing if I eat meat, for example? To what extent am I complicit in taking what isn't freely given if I work for a company that's maybe kind of unethical, but maybe I'm not directly involved in it? Or if I'm doing business, it's really hard to even just buy something from somebody who's not getting rich off of, screwing people. You know what I mean? And so you got to find, what is realistic? What can I really do, given who I am and the circumstances that I'm in, and so on. Now, there are some things that it's not too hard. If you, I get these calls from people who will say, I am from Windows, and, I need access to your computer so that I can repair these error messages. It's like, and I'll ask them, so what kind of rebirth do you expect to have? It's stealing from people all day. It's some very interesting conversations with some of them. The smart ones hang up on me and call somebody else. But, sometimes people will engage with me about that. So if you know that your job is causing harm, you should be looking for a different job. Now, when it comes to things like, how do I have work-life balance? We sort of have these conflicting ideals in society. On one level, excuse me, we think that we should be self-actualizing. We should get a lot of meaning and purpose out of our jobs and be able to, be like superhuman in terms of taking care of our families and meeting our social obligations and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of time, just the reality of the situation means that you're going to have to pick and choose some things. And part of the balance, though, is being aware of that and just in finding that place that's realistic for us. It's like having a meditation habit. I'll talk to people sometimes who are really good at meditating every single day, and then they get really, really busy and it all goes out the window. Well, that's the way life is sometimes. You get really, really busy, and the usual things that you commit to may be hard to do, so do what you can. I've told you all about this one student I have who is a really, really busy guy. Got a high-ranking job at a well-known hospital. And he sometimes will just meditate in his car before he goes up to his office after his commute in the morning. Because I told him, be realistic about what you can do. Find what you can do and do that. And then don't beat up on yourself because you can't reach some level, some ideal that you set for yourself that's really not realistic within the context of your life. No. You don't want to go too easy on yourself. It's really, it's real easy to go, well, I can't do this, so I'm not going to try. Try, do what you can. Try to do what you can. But, when the Buddha was asked about right livelihood, he said very little. He said, what is right livelihood? Right livelihood is that which is not wrong livelihood. And that was pretty much it, But then he did say, things like don't manufacture weapons, don't raise animals for slaughter, don't, I think making intoxicants, trading in human beings, those kinds of things. He said you can't do any of those. Well, when we look from our perspective, right, at what point are we involved in building weapons? If we're paying taxes and not complaining about it going to the defense industry, are we complicit in that? You know, at what point are we involved in raising animals for slaughter if we can go down the street to the supermarket and buy any number of animal parts, right? So you just kind of have to look and go, okay, what makes sense in my life that I can do and that I am aware, you know, that I'm working on, trying to improve, trying to build a better world. A really interesting exercise with regard to this and finding kind of where your balance is to do Nikon. Have you been around when I'm talking about Nikon? So there's a book on it that's by Greg Creech that is a good one. Naikan. This is basically reflecting on your life using 3 questions. First question is, what have I received? So traditionally, you would go through every relationship in your life, examining in great detail, you know, with regard to this person, what have I received? So your mother. What did I receive from my mother? Well, she changed my diaper 30,757 times. She prepared, you know, 100,000 meals for me, you know, those kinds of things. And then what have I given? And then the last one is, what trouble have I caused? So you can look over the course of a day with those 3 questions. What did I receive today? Well, so I'll just kind of off of the top of my head, I'll do mine. So we had a thing at school, I won't go into detail about what it was about, but catering services donated cookies and bottled water for it. So that was a gift from catering services. I got a lot of support from colleagues, you know, in helping to arrange the thing and that sort of stuff. I've got the use of a place, you know, the president's house, the garden at the president's house, and a tent, which is a beautiful place. So all of these things were gifts. You know, I didn't have to do anything to get these. They were just there. And then also, on the you kind of have to look a little farther to find this, because there's so many things that we take for granted to get from there to here. You know, I drove on streets that I didn't have to build. They were already there. They were gifts. Other drivers behaved reasonably well and didn't run me off the road or smash into me, you know. That's a gift. I mean, we don't think about it. We take advantage of those things, but those are gifts. And then, what did I give? Well, you know, I gave a talk. I helped some people deal with an issue that they were dealing with, you know, and that sort of thing. So I gave some stuff. I'm here. I'm giving a Dharma talk now. That's giving a gift. What trouble did I cause? Well, I ate. I ate food that had been prepared that was probably created some trouble for somebody. I spilled something on the floor across the street at Boston Coffee while I was eating a bagel. I dropped some cream cheese on the floor. You know, that created trouble for somebody. I'm sure I created a lot of other trouble. That's a hard one to really think about, because sometimes you create trouble while you're doing good things for people, which is kind of interesting. But that's sort of a way of looking at this balance sheet. What am I doing that's good? What am I doing that's creating trouble? How am I supported by the world that I live in? We think there's this concept in Buddhism, self-power and other power. Really, the reality is there is no self-power, there is no other power. So if you're living a compassionate life, compassion should be a transformative thing, and you're supported by compassion, and you're compassionate. So recognize both of those. So, and that's an important part, I think, of finding kind of where you fit in the universe, is how am I being supported? And then what am I doing in return? And then see how you can tweak that balance sheet a little bit. You'll always get more support from the world than you give. It's just impossible to not give as much as you get, I think. But that's okay. You know, it's also good to notice, hey, some of what I do is good. You know, if you work for a grocery store, you're helping feed people. You know, if you build roads, you're helping people get where they need to go. If you're working in a bank, you're helping people plan their finances. There's always, now if you look at your job and you really can't see how it benefits anybody, well, maybe you'd be thinking about doing something different. But that's a good start.
I think for help for me is if you feel like you've been unsupported or your willingness to help others has been because you've freely given of it and you feel like you've done too much or that you might continue to do too much, that's kind of more where I'm at. Like, how do you know, living with compassion, like how do you know when to say when and, what parameters do you look to? That's sort of.
When it's at the point where it's causing you harm, then you want to look seriously at what's going on. If it's at the point where you're burnt out, then that's the point where you go, okay, let me back off a little bit. And that can happen. I don't know, what do you do? Do you mind saying? Oh my God. Yeah. And that's a very difficult, I can't, you do an awful lot of good for an awful lot of people. And you're in one of those fields. For those of you who are online, she's a veterinarian. You're in one of those fields where compassion fatigue is a real thing. And burnout. Yeah. So you need to try to find a way, to prioritize a way to give yourself some space. So like last semester, fortunately I live with someone who is pretty sensitive to my moods and stuff. And at one point last semester, she looked at me and she said, "You are burned out. You're going to the beach for the weekend." So you can find one of those people, to send you to the beach for the weekend or something. It doesn't always necessarily require a life change. But a little shift away, put your phone away, watch the sunrise over the ocean for a couple of days or something until you feel the fog lift. That's what that burnout is like. And, there's counselors out there and stuff like that.
Yeah, not all that. I'm just trying to decide between what to do next. And I think that helps a lot.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other, that was a good question. Thank you for that. Yes.
I was just thinking that I've heard a few stories about Buddha besides the origin one I thought were interesting, whether they're true or not. But I was wondering if you knew of any book, which you might recommend, that has previously started about the Buddha, that those are enjoyable.
Yeah. So, Karen Armstrong's Life of the Buddha is a really good, if you want an overview of the Buddha's life and teachings, that's not a bad place to start. If you go to accesstoinsight.org, there's a huge library there of, you kind of have to dig through it to find what you're looking for. If you're looking for like interesting stories, so one is, have you ever seen or are you familiar with the Dhammapada? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so the Dhammapada is a pretty accessible, pretty widely available book, and it's basically short teachings of the Buddha. It's like little verses, like hatred is never defeated by hatred, only by non-hatred is hatred defeated. That comes out of the Dhammapada. So there's a book called the Dhammapada Stories, and if you search it online, you'll find it. And actually, if you want to, you can email me and I'll send you a link to it. And it gives all the backstories for all of these little verses, and some of them are really cool. Like the Metta Sutra that we chant. There's an excerpt from that, very short one, in the Dhammapada, and then the backstory for all of that is given in this book on the Dhammapada stories. So The backstory of the Metta Sutra is that there were these monks who, during the Buddhist time, they would go spend the rainy season, which is about 3.5 months, wherever the Buddha was, and they had listened to teachings. And then when the rains ended, they'd go and spread out, and they'd go find places to meditate and people to teach the Dharma to, and so on. So there was this group of, it was 500 monks, a bunch of monks, who all left, and they went out, and they traveled through the countryside, and they found this valley, this beautiful little cool valley with a stream running through it of very clean, sweet water, And it was just a very quiet place, a great place to meditate. And there was a village nearby, so there were villagers who were really happy to have these monks around to make offerings to. So the monks are like, wow, this is perfect, So they settled in this valley. Well, this valley also happened to be inhabited by some tree deities, these little deva-like things, but more like, I don't know, kind of hard to explain, sort of lower level divine beings. And at first they were really happy that the monks were there because, good karma and all that stuff. But then after a while they realized these monks weren't leaving, and they started getting annoyed by having all these monks sitting around in the forest. And so they decided they'd run them off. And so they started creating really nasty, foul odors in the forest and making loud noises in the middle of the night to wake the monks up, or while they were trying to meditate to shake their concentration, and sending them horrible visions and things like that. So the monks decide, we need to talk to the Buddha about this. And so they go back to the monastery where the Buddha is staying, and they tell him what's happening. And the Buddha says, okay. He says, you got to go back. He says, you're all right on the verge of enlightenment, but you got to go back and face these little tree sprites and deal with them. And so he taught them the Metta Sutta. And he sent them back to the valley, and they entered the valley chanting the Metta Sutra. And they sat down in the woods chanting the Metta Sutra. And these tree deities heard this and were so moved by the goodwill in this that their hearts softened toward the monks, and they decided they really wanted them there. And so they made it perfectly still in the forest and did everything that they could to support the monks. And so as a result, all 500 of the monks became fully enlightened. So, we're not going to, the important point of this is the Buddha said, you got to go back and face them and come back to them with goodwill. And that's the way you're going to overcome these things that are sending you this suffering, which of course are a consequence of what the monks were doing with their own minds. You're at that point where you need to wake up and suddenly you're experiencing all of this suffering. And so you need to confront that and confront it with goodwill. So that's the example of the kind of stories in there. What time is it? Time for one more question if you want to. Okay. Then we can do the great vows. Creations are numberless, I vow to them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Friends, I respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken, take heed, do not squander this life. Please stand. Three bows to the Buddha. Teacher. To each other. Thank you all. Have a great week.